The cat lady says, I was actually arrested once for having a free Mandela bumper sticker on my car. The cops were so angry. They stuck guns in my face. Yikes. So the other day, was this Wednesday? So Monday, somebody asked me about, did I hear about the Church of England priest who was arrested at a protest? I hadn't, but now I went and I read about her. This particular priest, her name is Sue Parfett, the Reverend Sue Parfett. She is 83 years old, 84 years old, 83. She's 83 years old, and she was arrested for protesting, a protest that was geared towards supporting a banned group. So there's a group that operates in England, and she was there to support them. There was a discussion happening about whether or not this group should be put on the terrorist list, and ultimately they were placed on the terrorist list. It's called Palestine Action is the name of the group, and she was there because she thinks it was absolute rubbish that this group was being placed on the terrorist list. Now, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into anything about this particular group and what they're up to. She, in one interview that I read from her, she is well aware that this particular group has engaged in vandalism and damaging destruction of private and public property. This group is about doing what they can to ensure that people are aware of the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, and how they are being tormented, how they are being attacked, how they are being brutalized by the IDF, how there is a genocide, an active and intentional genocide underway in Gaza. And this 83-year-old retired priest, she wasn't going to sit at home, and she went out and got to work. Now, when they arrested her, she was sitting in a lawn chair. She can't stand up very well, and so she was sitting in a lawn chair holding a sign, and the sign conveyed her disgust for what the government was doing. Now, it's important to understand this was not her first rodeo. The more I've read about this lady, the more I'm kind of tickled by her. I'm inspired by her. She has been arrested at many protests. She's involved in many protests. As a matter of fact, because of her arrests, she, at least a couple of years ago, she was fighting to get her license. Every priest in the Anglican Church has is licensed by their bishop to conduct official ceremonies, and she was fighting to get her license to conduct ceremonies because the bishop, because of her arrest record, the bishop, she couldn't pass it along, and so Reverend Sue was fighting for that license. She believes strongly in what she believes, and she believes it's important for her voice to be heard, because she believes that her voice, that she has an opportunity that others do not have, and she wants to speak up for those whose voices are being silenced, for those voices that are being muted. She recognizes that in our world, it seems like the plight of the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. It's not that it's just going ignored, but it's being suppressed. That there's something happening in our world where what's going on with the genocide that's occurring in Gaza and in the West Bank is being suppressed, it's being pushed down, it's being silenced, it's being covered up. We don't talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. It's wrong to talk about that. And Sue's saying, no, that's garbage. And so she goes out and she protests. When she was arrested this last time, because again, she's been arrested many times. When she was arrested this last time, the police said, there's no age limit on the law. It's whether you're 8 or 80, I think they said. The law is the law. And she was arrested. Now, we did handle her you can see where the police officers handled her very gently. And she acknowledges that. They didn't put her in handcuffs, she said, because she can't walk without assistance. What did she say? Was it a walker or a cane she uses? I think it was a walker. That she, if they had put her hands behind her back, she wouldn't have been able to walk to the car, to the paddy wagon. There's a couple of things about this that I bring up. Now, the first is this. I am against violence in protest. All violence. I'm against violence in protest. I am against the destruction or damage of private or public property. Vandalism and the destruction of property has no place in a protest, and neither does violence. And it's not simply because I don't want anything to be destroyed, although that is part of it. It's because if we go out into the streets to protest, a part of our responsibility, I believe, is that we cannot give anyone a reason to ignore our message. We cannot make the protest about ourselves, and we cannot give anybody an opportunity to make that moment about us. So if we go out and you flip a car, or you light something on fire, or you put a rock through something, what you're doing is you're giving those that you are speaking against a reason to say, don't you see how awful they are? Don't listen to anything that they say, because they're willing to destroy property. They're willing to do this. They're willing to do that. You can't listen to them, can't trust them. They're no good. Ignore them. They're hooligans. They're vandals. They're criminals. They have no, and because of that, we shouldn't be listening. Give the world no reason to ignore what it is we're trying to say. And to do that, you must be righteous, without blemish. Because they're going to look, right? Your opponents are going to look for a reason to ignore you. They're going to look for a reason to suppress your voice. They're going to look for a reason that they can give the world around us of why you should be ignored. Give them nothing. Treat them like a mushroom. I'll leave it there. But treat them like a mushroom. They get nothing from you, and you keep them in the dark. So with that said, though, Sue and I would probably find ourselves on different sides of the coin there, but I'm amazed with her. I'm incredibly grateful for her. I'm incredibly grateful for her testimony and for her ministry. Her ministry is to be the voice of those who aren't being heard. Her ministry is to be the voice of those whose voices are being suppressed and whose voices are being silenced. Her ministry is to be the voice of those whose voices are we're being told are subversive. Even at her age, right? Even at her age, she's out there because it matters to her. Even at her age, she's willing to stand and go forward because it matters. And it doesn't just matter, like it's not her ego, it's not her psyche, she understands that it matters to our future. She understands that she has a prophetic responsibility. Like, we've been reading from Amos. We're going to read from Amos here in a few minutes. But she has a prophetic responsibility to speak truth to power for those who can't speak for themselves, or who have no opportunity to speak for themselves. And at 80, 83, and again, this isn't her first rodeo. She's been at this a long time. I think about some of the folks in the Bible. I think about people like Moses, right? 80 years old when he goes to Egypt to get the people. 120 years old by the time he takes them to the promised land. 40 years of listening to those people grumble and gripe about everything they could possibly complain about. I think about Sarah, Abraham and Sarah, right? Sarah could never have children until she was in her 90s. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have a child, Sarah. That's so ridiculous to her. She laughs when she hears it. Abraham's in his 90s when he has a child with Sarah. There's no age limit. There's no age limit. This police officer says, the law is the law. There's no age limit on the law. There's no age limit on protest either. There's no age limit on being a voice for those who need us to stand up and speak for them. There's no age limit on doing the right thing. And as a matter of fact, there's apparently, looking at Reverend Sue, there's no limit that our body can put on it either. She needs assistance to walk, and so she sits. And not for nothing, given the fact that Reverend Sue, at least a couple of years ago, was fighting for her license to officiate as a retired clergy. She's also willing to pay the price. See, for her, officiating a service, not just for her, for many of us, officiating a service is such a blessing. It's not a job. It takes a lot out of us, but it's a real blessing to have the opportunity to stand with a congregation and to officiate, to offer the sacraments, to pray for and to pray with people, to remind people of Jesus' love and to teach. Officiating. I once had a friend of mine in seminary. He said, that's your ego reward for all the work you do in ministry all week. Yeah, but it is such an honor and such a gift. And here she is, already in this place where she's at least at best, she is on thin ice. She's still willing to go out and do the right thing, even though it may in the end cost her the opportunity to do something that is truly rewarding, that's truly a blessing for her. God bless you, Reverend Sue. And God bless all of us who are willing to follow her and to be that prophetic voice that speaks truth to power for those whose voices are unheard or silenced. Amen.